I think they had elections in 2008, 2010, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2015, 2017 factions that actually had developed in the party. And one of the things I remember, Voltaire once said, the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman, nor an empire. And when you see what is happening in FDC agenda, individual agendas, and that is what they accused the NRM of doing. When the OOs and Amama bungled the 2010 delegates conference, we saw so many independents coming up. The successors, the Lumumbas, tried to organize a delegates conference that saw the flag bearers. We saw more candidates that are coming up. Let me say on the onset that Amuriat has powers to...
That's President Amuriat.
President Amuriat has powers
FDC.
to, yes, to assemble a team that he can well work with. Just like President Museveni saw the Anitas and said he would better work with the Anitas in his government. Honorable Anita Evelyn. And some sections of society thought that was a wrong move. She couldn't have done business. That's just a metaphorical use of the name Anita. This is the same thing that we see in FDC. But also I have to say that sometimes it's not just about the law that you want to follow. If the Constitution says this, that is what you're supposed to follow. You must exercise on another layer of administration, wisdom, what they call some level of intelligence, that while you need to assemble your team, you must also pay cognizance of the fact that you need cohesion, for instance, in a party. And that's why you need to deal with people who are moderates, the Kantuntus.
Is he moderate?
Yes, by far he's a moderate. Deal with people that are extremists and find a middle ground how you can bring them together. In my opinion, I need the leadership, like for FDC, to deal squarely with people who think that everything should be militaristic, while also dealing with the Kantuntus, who think that if
who want to wear red,
who if they are told this is supposed to be, so it is either their way or you're not. They are not part. Exactly. So it also needs to deal with that. The bigger problem for me, I'm seeing, Oscar, for FDC is people underestimated General Muntu. People thought Muntu, in my reading, President General Muntu's concern is not even about the presidency. And while they were busy perforating his structure, building structures, for me, I'm seeing Bujiri gave us an example, gave us something to match on. Arua is also going to give us something else. NRM lost so many people and they became independent leaning, and this is the trend I'm seeing, that these individuals, group politics, away from parties, are building more independence. And when we come to the 11th parliament, when you have more independence and they are leaning towards a given section of powerful sort of the pressure group that is said to be coming up, even if it doesn't come up. But when you have more independence, that I'm seeing, prophesying, the prophecy is they would have more independence and opposition leaning, but they're never FDC. That tells you that the power is going to be flipped. Najana Nkumbi, which is the majority, which is the largest political party, the second largest political party, or the largest in opposition, will lose the power grip on opposition, especially when you have more independents that are coming up. And the Chagulanyi wave, the Muntus that are thinking in building these structures and going for more parliamentary seats, this is what they are aiming at. And for if FDC does not sit back and say, look here, guys, Nandara Mafabi, the Salam Musumbas, the Ingrid Turinawes, who are by nature, they are very forceful. If does not deal with such category of people, and also reach out to the Abdudus, the Abdukatuntus, who also, because of self-righteousness, yes, they believe they should have their way, not the other way. FDC is going for a dead end. I have my respect for different people, especially. I've consulted Katuntu on different things. I've consulted Nandala when it comes to issues about political parties, but FDC as a party, it needs to squarely deal with these individuals if they are to build cohesion, or else we are going to have more independent-leaning opposition, and their source of power is going to be outside, not in FDC, but outside an individual who many people think that actually is a spent force.
Don't use such words. You will be punished for such words.
And the FDC was, if you go to social media, you will find that there's actually
a very active war.
Candid, active
discussion,
war.
Yeah.
Looking here at, there's a reply from Mugisha Muntu. He says to someone called Chitezala, whose Twitter handle is called Tubalemese1. And he had said these people, presumably the Mugishas, people think we are too gullible. Mr. Mugisha Muntu fired Mr. Nandala Mafabi after Muntu took oath of office because he contested him, even replaced every messagist by his loyals. That was normal. His own loyals voted him out of office for Patrick Amuriat. And then Mugisha Muntu did respond, says, if you are aiming for truth, not grandstanding, you would find that I appointed Nandala Mafabi's supporters as LOP. I appointed Nandala Mafabi as LOP. I appointed Semuju Nganda as spokesperson. It's one thing to say the party president has the right to choose his team, and he does, and another to mudsling. So,
Mudslinging.
The war is on social media as well.
Maybe we need a post-mortem of this party. It's dead. We need a post-mortem of this.
It's not dead.
Mudslinging. Maybe we need a post-mortem because it will help us to ensure that the next one does not die the same death, the same calamitous death that has happened to FDC. My view has always been, and I've said this, and I was less vocal about it because the coward in me couldn't take any more insults. But my view has always been FDC was heading for this, and for a while there,
couldn't take insults by FDC.
FDC support. They are quite very harsh, and my self-esteem was suffering. So I decided, but you see, time tells. In the end, the Baganda said to Wakanilwe Bagwa, if you see a cow being cut, there is no sense in arguing whether it's pregnant or not. You understand? Because you're going to beat each other up, and the cow is being cut. So at some point, we will know. Obviously, you will know. So for me, it was about sitting back and I let them do whatever they are doing and support it, and but then we will reach the same conclusion. You have to look at the background. But for me, I'm interested in this FDC discussion because contrary to what Ofono thinks, this is not a merry day for NRM. NRM has gone through this and it's dead. All they are remaining with is the head. So have you seen someone on life support who is in vegetative state but they can blink? Museveni is their eyelid, which can only blink. And once that is dead, Museveni, the party is dead. So do not celebrate too much, Ofono, that FDC is dead, because NRM is in a worse position than FDC.
FDC is dead, but
you just have the government machinery which is helping propping you up.
They are dead.
They will. Eventually they will. Strong. At the funeral they will. But what I'm saying is this post-mortem will help us get a better party. And for me, politics should be about this country, should be about how we help each other live better lives and how we build this country. It shouldn't be about who chose Nandala Mafabi or leader of opposition, who is wearing red, who is wearing, because when you look at it and break down piece by piece, FDC is just NRM in blue, I would say. And no. When you look at the way you do things, the creation of the party, let's get away from these people, and the mind of a human being is hidden from us. And that is the greatest, you will find that is the greatest, the biggest thing that we grapple with as human beings. Got into a self-seekers entered FDC at some point. Maybe Forum Reform Agenda had good intentions in the beginning. Let's get away from this party NRM, which no longer looks like the party that we fought to get into power, to get rid of bad leadership and bad governance. So when NRM was veering towards bad governance, which has gotten worse over the years, some people broke off to start something else which they thought should be better. Then these people were penetrated by others, and and this is one of the faults of democracy. When you look at America, when Trump went and penetrated the Republican Party, there's nothing they could do to stop it. And this is one of the weaknesses of democracy. And it's worse in a third world where people are poor. So someone will come to FDC and their intention is to find a living. And this is like 90% of the party. And I'm just picking figures out of the air. I'm not saying that I've done any research on this. But the majority of the party, and you will find most of them have been bought off time and time again by the NRM, which is easy because these people cannot. I will give an example of Mama Mavira. She was lying in bed and she did not have treatment for after her accident, and NRM paid. And of course the wave took her to NRM because you are telling her to choose between her integrity and her life. And once you're dead, you don't have integrity unless there's a monument going to be erected in your name somewhere. Most of the FDC party members are looking for something to eat, and you will find them disgruntled and tell you, Besige eats alone. All the money that comes from all these governance forums that is given to FDC for good governance and to oppose the government is unaccounted for by and large. And most party members don't feel heard. And this comes out of a situation where FDC doesn't have a proper strategy. Even when they were attacking us, oppositional forces who are not aligned to FDC, why don't you join the FDC? Why don't you demonstrate? Why would I lose my life for a party which doesn't have a proper strategy of getting into power, who are winging it? Today, wake up and walk to work. Tomorrow, to Valemese. Tomorrow, let's wear red. And then you're asking me to risk my life for that. FDC or whatever will come after FDC has to learn from what has happened to FDC if they are to change this country or to give this country better leadership than NRM. You can't go being the exact similar party as the party you're opposing. You have to do better than the party you're opposing. And for me, looking at Mugisha Muntu having basic discussions about leadership, about mudslinging, it's worrying. And why is such a person of his caliber having petty discussions on social media when we should be discussing policy, when we should be discussing governance, when we should be discussing poverty, when we should be discussing bigger things than this? But you see, FDC for over the years has reduced itself to a bickering party where X is bickering with Y. And when you talk to the members like Semuju, like Abdu, they will say, for me, I am not part of that bickering. I will not pertain. But you see, you could ignore symptoms of a disease. Eventually, you will die. And that is what has happened to FDC. You ignored key symptoms of, you ignored members who are being bought off by NRM, and you knew these members. You did not talk to them. You did not ask them why they were allowing to go and get NRM envelopes. You just continued entertaining them, and now we are in a situation where the people you have to rely on, Amuriat and his friends, the only supposedly uncompromised people, are people who can take a party forward. Because walk to the street. FDC needs visibility in the public. But walk to the street and ask any Juakali person who Amuriat is. They wouldn't pick them out in a group of 10 people. Oh, and that, at this point, he won, yes. And this is what I'm telling you about democracy. It has its weakness.
So he will.
He's just started, but Bobby Wine has just started.
No, he
was a singer,
yes. A different platform.
I understand, but these excuses are not going to take away the fact that right now, 2 years to the general election, in order to defeat Museveni, as a party that is contending and is serious, you need someone who is visible, who can be identified, but at the very least 60% of the public. And Amuriat can't.
You see, the president of the party, Oscar, just information.
No, let's go to Ofono Opondo as you got it down.
You will interject.
Well, Nafi says
I don't care. Someone can't identify
money
us.
coming
And we need
from
someone who can be identified.
governance groups that contributed to FDC is not being accounted
And
for.
sponsors.
Honorable Salam Musumba says the reason there is hullabaloo or hubris from the Abu Katutus as a result of recent changes is because they were getting money from these committees. And Salam says if they stretch us beyond common sense, we are going to explode with evidence. So that's I want to.
She's taking too long.
Yeah, this is what she says. So I think first of all, then it means
that's how she's reaching out to the
yes, it means partly the fight in FDC is about money for self.
Not partly.
There is insiders tell me that the reason you are the one talking about the rules. The reason Amrit took the decision to change committee leadership, even when he knew he has been a member of parliament, I think, for 10 years, previously, 15 years. So he knows the rules of the house, that you can't, the committee leader, unless there is a problem of integrity or whatever, then you can change them midway. Like it happened, I think, when Lord Mayor accused the Kanya, who was then the chairperson of local government accounts committee over the Nakasero market issues, and there was hullabaloo and the Kanya was removed midway. Now, I am told that this was intended to give Amriat loyalists, committee chairpersons, so that they can have their hands onto what now Salam has confirmed, that these committee chairpersons use these committee positions to get money. Sometimes then they share the portion of this money with party leadership at Najana Nkumbi. I think so Salam is tying.
She said this on
yes,
air?
on air, but it's also she has repeated in both the Montra and the Red
they
Paper.
get money. They get an enhanced salary, or
No,
get
first of all, officially committee chairpersons have additional allowances.
yes.
Secondly, each committee has a budget to run activities, and you don't remember that they go either abroad. The reason we keep receiving gifts here from each time he travels, he brings us gifts.
Highly favored.
Yes,
Highly
they travel around the country, purportedly to follow up, to inspect government projects and service delivery. But also, they use these particular accountability committees, they use these committees to gang praise public officials who are found to be short of performance. The reason you see what would appear to be tantamount to harassment of accounting officers in the park, in the Kosase, in the Ward, and so on, they blackmail them, so they go behind, extort money from them. Some of this money goes to the committee persons or chairpersons. This is what actually Salam is saying. And the committee chairpersons or their members then share. When they go to the field, of course, the pressure continues, because if you follow a cow to the border post of Maraba, or a URA officer at the border post of Busia, and you say, we have found the following mistakes, immigration official, then you can say, well, I want another 50 million, and things like that. This is what Salam is saying in today's newspapers. And Nanafi has...
it's been going on.
Yes. Now, the other issue really is about leadership. Yes, FDC has been changing leaders, particularly at the top. Well, I think at all levels they have done so. We wouldn't discount that. But I think in so doing, they have failed. Yes, they have failed to appreciate the role of leadership, particularly at the top. The role of the leadership, in my view, is to try to harmonize the different tendencies in the organization for the general good of the party, the long term. And that's why I think the leadership of President Museveni, even when many people accuse him of longevity of this, he has held his group relatively well. Yes, you will say Museveni has brought General Moses Sari from the older army, he has brought UPC people, he has brought youngsters like Anites and the Chibulis, but you will not hear hubris within NRM people asking Museveni, why have you brought in it? I cannot, either publicly or even in the meetings, quarrel with President Museveni, why have you brought Honorable Frank, Honorable Frank from Wevaze or Honorable Nite, who I told yesterday? I will not do so, because President Museveni will harmonize the different tendencies in his group, and by and large, we do appreciate why he brings these the different generations of leadership, because it is intended for the general good of NRM, but also for the country. And the evidence, he has been exonerated that for 32 years, 32 years he has been able to hold Uganda as one piece moving on, notwithstanding some of the shortcomings. The other issue about the FDC leadership is what Abudu, it was Abudu who used this word last time. He said it is a purge. It is not a reshuffle, it is a purge. I think the...
Did he say if it is a purge?
No, he said it is a purge, it is not a reshuffle. This is what Abudu said on this show last time as we were concluding. I think if you look at the formation of FDC, there are 4 critical elements to look at. One, FDC was formed to fill the vacuum that had been left by the all discredited parties, DP and UPC. You remember after Semogere declined further contestation after the defeat of 96, UPC was led by Cicero One, was so discredited that they were not willing to offer a candidate. And when basically I think detected this, he broke away from the NRM in 99, knowing very well that there was an election coming in early 2001. And our colleagues in the old parties, the Abudu Katuntus, got lowered that this former National Political Committee of NRM, this personal physician of Bush War comrades, this colonel, and never mind that this colonel of the army is neither trained nor professional. It is a rank given, in my view, because of he found himself at a right historical junction of the day and was given the rank. Our colleagues got convinced that this colonel from the NRM was capable of dislodging Museveni, had what it takes to dislodge not just Museveni, but the entire NRM establishment. Now, 17 years down the road, he is behaving in a similar way that he accuses his former boss, Museveni, of not ceding space. And therefore, he has built a personality cult. If you look at the ongoing discussion, neither the Abudu Katuntus nor the Salam Musumbas, none of them wants to say that the problem actually is Mr. Kiza Besigye, because none of them is capable of saying, yes, none of them is able to say that because you ask, after Kiza Besigye cut short his leadership of FDC, why did he come back? When there was a credible, at that time we thought General, I still do believe, was a credible leader. He had the background of the army, he had the background of the NRM and so on. Why did he come back? In the developed democracies, if we want to go that direction...
credible leader, you say, is the leader you wanted?
No. First of all, a good section of FDC believed so, and that's why they voted for him. Why did Mr. Kiza Besigye come back, first of all, as a presidential candidate, but also continuing to fund a certain faction of the party, you know, for the group of the Nandarama Fabis, and then now Amriyat. Thirdly, he did not just fund, but he also created structures outside the FDC, created an office in Katonga. So his office became the rallying point of the people who were believing in him, the people who were funding, who had previously been funding opposition FDC politics in Katonga. And he has not left that space. And none of them is willing to confront that position. Now, I really think that the goings on in the FDC is that Mr. Amoriat, the engineer he is, I think he is not his own man. I think he's bidding Besigye.
You think he's a puppet?
Yes, he's a puppet. He's a puppet. And by the Alisa Lasso, in today's news media, she has been quoted extensively, and having been Secretary General of FDC, a person of high repute in Parliament, I have no reason to doubt what she's saying because she's speaking.
Right
from,
now, you have
yes.
no reason to doubt what
yes,
she's saying.
she is saying that the problem is really Mr. Kizza Besigye, and nobody wants to confront that issue. And so, because Mr. Kizza Besigye, in my reading, doesn't want anybody who by 2020 could try, in the leadership of FDC, could try to be a stumbling block to his interest in coming back as the FDC or even the collective opposition presidential candidate. As I was saying that in other developed democracies, if you wanted to go that direction, if you have lost election, or if you're a governing party and you lose a parliamentary vote, or you lose a budget vote, you resign. For Mr. Besigye to lose presidential elections 4 times, never mind that he says he's cheated, and he wants to keep on coming back, he's doing a disservice to his organization.
I do know that you could present a paper on FDC and especially Kizza Besigye. Even if you are just woken up, you would deliver a good paper on that. But let's consider and let's...
when I retire from this job, I'm going to open a political think tank.
But at any one point, talking about Kizza Besigye, you would owe FDC, you'd be quite, you do very well. And I like the references at what point you start taking people out of the history. You know, when he was erased from the latest version of Mustard Seed and so on and so. But Abdu Katuntu, you're the one from FDC that we have here. And from recent descriptions,